everybody, it's Jo Perrott, founder of the Ladies Working Dog Group. Are you feeling stuck with your gun dog training? Trust me, you're not alone, and that's exactly why you need to be here. Every week, we're bringing you the best tips and hacks to make training your gun dog easy peasy. We'll keep it straightforward, no fuss, just actionable guidance that you can put straight to use. So let's get started. Hello and welcome to another episode of Found It, Fetched It. This week we're going to be talking all about some practical tips for staying safe with your dog with Society member Laura Owen. Laura is an independent domestic violence advocate in South Yorkshire for her local authority. Welcome, Laura. Thank you so much for doing this call with us.
No worries, it's lovely to be here.
So let's start back before the dogs, before the LWDG. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to work with women in this role?
Yeah, so I myself was a victim of a long campaign of stalking, and it affected my everyday life from going to the shops to walking down the road. And once I'd experienced that and started to come out the other side, I really knew the laws and legislations around women's safety weren't very strong, and there were a lot of victim blaming. And I wanted to be part of a movement that changed that for other women. So I started campaigning in my own right and basically jumped sectors from the career that I was in, gained some volunteer experience working with women and children that had been subjected to abuse, and found my way into the position that I am now.
So your role before this was completely different, your previous...
Yep, I worked in functions.
It's horrific for anyone, male or female, to go through anything that sort of affects their safety and then their understanding or their fears around their safety going forward. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do every day and how you are working to change laws, etc.
The work I do every day is basically to prevent. I'll put a trigger warning on for anyone that's been subjected to abuse or violence, but my role is to protect homicide of someone from becoming, sadly, no longer in this world due to abuse and violence. We do things around safety planning, working multi-agency, community coordinated responses to protect victims, and work with different sectors in safeguarding to ensure that family that's fleeing any abuse or violence is free from them experiences and can get away safely.
And you're dealing with, shall we say, like the tip of the spear there, where it is people in horrific positions. Before a lot of our ladies, and for the general public in whole who listen to this, when you are maybe further down the scale, fear is always fear, isn't it? It doesn't matter what you're frightened of or why you're frightened about it. It can massively affect your life.
Yeah, it's trauma. It'll follow you through, and them traumas can stack from different experiences you've gone through your life.
The reason we wanted to do this podcast is because a lot of people are starting to feel really uncomfortable when out walking their dogs. They don't feel that them themselves are safe or that their dogs are safe. And it's getting to a situation where some people are really considering whether they take their dog out of their home and garden. Let's talk a little bit about how we can help people who are feeling like that about just leaving their home with their dogs.
Yeah, so there's totally validate anybody that feels like that. It feels a very unsafe world. There are things that we can do in practice that you can even share with your family and friends to make us feel safer. And the responsibility shouldn't be on people to feel safe. It should be on the responsibility for the people causing harm to not cause harm. So I just want to acknowledge that. Like safety tips we'd give, for example, is walking in public places. And I appreciate that's easier said than done for some people who might live in rural areas. So then we'd concentrate on things like street lights, and there's some safety apps that you can put on your phone. There's one called Hollyguard, for example, and you don't need to link it up to a partner or whatever, because people thinking from an intersectional lens, could be in abusive relationships, don't want to be tracked by the partner who might be listening to this. So you can link it up with friends or family, so a trusted person, and it can be free, or there's a subscription, and you can tie your phone to a safe contact. So you shake your phone, you feel unsafe, it'll alert your trusted person. These are really good apps that are easy to find on Apple and Android that you can put on your phone. It's a soft tracking, so do be aware, people, it's up to you the level of it. You allow that person to see where you are, but they're definitely worth checking out. So as the dark nights come in, these are things that you can link up with people that you know. So if you do feel unsafe, you can alert somebody quite quickly, and you can also alert the police as well. There's other things that people can do, such as Street Safe. So that's a national website that links up to your local police forces, and you can report anonymously where you don't feel safe. And that could be lighting that's out. It could be people following. It could be someone where you shouted at or verbally abused. And that, working in local government, I know that information gets collated and we can see hotspots. So it might be where someone's hanging around, and if everybody uses it and reports it, and it is anonymous, it takes a couple of minutes out your day. It's really good information and intelligence for your local authority and for your local police force to see where there's any places where people don't feel safe. And it's good to, again, I use it a lot when there's lighting out, for example. We know what it's like trying to read councils, you're stuck in a queue, but you can just let them know where there's lighting out, where you don't feel safe, and then that information will get passed along. I'd also encourage anybody to let their MP know and the local councillors, because it's really important. I think women's safety, it's really still overlooked, and I'm a real passionate campaigner on this. And let you make noise. And you are important. Women's safety all people's safety is important. But regarding women, there is fact and evidence behind we are primary targets for abuse and violence on the streets. So yeah, make noise in it. Make noise in it.
And it's quite bizarre, isn't it? Because what we do with our dogs, we tend to seek out rural spaces that are quiet, simply because for many of us, more public places with lots of people, etc., if we tend to go then to those places with our dogs, there are tending to be other dogs and owners who have got no control over them. So we end up at some way getting abused in some way for being in that space, and it's just not on. Like, we've got people who've said, I've had massive abuse of people because I've used a whistle with my dog and I've been told that I should just let them play, or I've been told that I shouldn't be training my dog and that it's not fair, or somebody's dog has been jumping all over my dog, I've asked them to call their dog back and I've got abused for that. So it's very hard for us when we go and seek out isolated places to get away from that, to then feel safe because we're in an isolated place.
Yeah, no, it's something I've experienced myself. There are good initiatives starting for more rural areas where, again, this is why I'm making noise to your local, wherever you live, or MPs, police, and councils. An area, something we've trialled is where lights switch on and cameras switch on when it's triggered. So when they know someone's in an area. Again, like I said, rural space is really difficult, and everybody deserves to be able to use public spaces. I use a public field myself, and I'll have Nala on a long line, for example, when children are there, to ensure that the parents feel safe. They know that she's on a long line, but when we've got that space there's not them distractions or anything, that's when I'll drop it, for example, and that's respecting the space for everybody. And unfortunately, we don't always get that respect back as well. So I totally acknowledge that. So for me, I'd just be saying, yeah, totally validate people's wanting to go out. I know I've wanted to do it myself, but there are ways and means that it can be done where women can be safe out in more isolated areas, especially things like car parks where we park our car, for example. There can be cameras and decent lighting, even around woodlands and things where there is a public car park you might use. So yeah, I'd just say write an email, go see your local councillor, write to your MP, and wherever you don't feel safe and you want to be safe, you deserve to be safe. And we just need to put that pressure on.
We also need to report when people have been abusive to us with their dogs, haven't they? Because, like you said, if we've got people who tend to walk their dogs in the same place over and over, if they've been abusive to us, the chances are they've been abusive to other people. If we all report it using the ways you've suggested, then the police, not that we want to waste police time, but there can be like more community officers, more presence, where people are like, there to say, can you put your dog on the lead, please? It's obviously out of control, etc. So that we can build up areas for ourselves that feel safer.
Yeah, that's it. That really is it. It's that fact and evidence, because I've done it before. Even as a victim of stalking, don't want to waste police time. We always seem to put ourselves at the bottom of the ladder. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I'm a strong advocate and a strong feminist to say, no, go bang that drum. You deserve to have spaces that are safe for you as well. We look at the nighttime economy and that gets a lot of focus around safety. I've started making noise within my own local police force around women's safety and dog walking, because we so often get shouted back at, especially around dog on a lead, for example, really hard, and why we're part of this society, to train our dogs and to respect other people's spaces and things like that. And we don't always get that respect back. So, yeah, just you deserve to feel safe. And yeah, please do report it, make noise on it, because that's how we get heard. And the more of us there are, the louder we are.
The experts I can remember on one of our live coaching, I won't be able to remember which one exactly, but we were talking about the difference between our dogs being fearful of other people and us teaching our dogs not to want to go to other people. And the reason I talk about this now is because if our dogs are not taught to be friendly with strangers, our dogs can then act like a deterrent to strangers, can't they? So I'm not suggesting we have a dog on a lead barking his head off, acting a guard dog, but a dog that alerts us to its body language that a stranger is in our location.
Yeah, I always watch my dog's body language. It's a real telltale sign. I've got two completely different dogs. I've got a highly reactive Asbo Labrador, and he's a challenge, shall we say. And then I've got Nala, and when I was doing a lot of socialisation, that's the stance I went for, that she knew the connection was with me. She was socialised, but she wasn't a hooligan. So I can tell when someone's in my presence because she'll be alert to it, but she won't be reactive. And yeah, so training's an ongoing process all the time, but Nala's really good at, I just watch her tail, her ears, the way she shifts, the way she looks. And it's not about, I don't want to frighten women in this space, but it's just about being aware. You know your dog, you know how your dog tells you, and it's looking at your dog and it's listening to your dog, and they're communicating through their body language. So I'm always quite aware of my dog and what she's trying to tell me around her surroundings. And again, smell and things like that. The smell's incredible. So yeah, just looking where she's looking really, and using her as a bit of an heads up to my surroundings.
Yeah. And that can always work better for us when our dogs aren't over familiar with other people in the way that they don't respond to them. That's like you were just saying, wasn't it? Making it that your dog's aware to something but not reactive.
Yeah.
You've got that balance.
Yeah. And that's where in my training, I went wrong with Neo, for example, and don't blame Neo for his ways. It's all on me. It's the way that I weren't as educated as what I were now with Nala, and he is reactive, sadly. And so yeah, it's so key, and that's why I really focus on the foundations and my dog training before I go to the retrieves. And what we see is all the fun stuff, that loose heel walking, recall, them are really important to me. And I'm still currently doing the hot mess handler, and I made a joke on the society page where I'm probably the longest person to do it, but I've done that as a conscious decision to really embed them foundations and have it right before we move on. to the other stuff. And it's worked. A recall's wonderful, a loose lead's wonderful. We're going through the I've lost my ears phase at minute, being 10 months old. So we're just going back and reinforcing them. But that's why spaces like this for women, like what the community you've built, is so important, where women can feel safe to say, I need help, and guide us, because I didn't have that with Neo. Do you know what I mean? And I'd not found you at Neo when I were Neo were a puppy. And Nala's just, completely different dog because of the LWDG. So yeah, I'm really grateful for.
It's what I love about the group as well, is the community side there. We're talking about feeling safe in outdoor environments, and lots of our members tend to find friends within the group, and then they go out together, and that can help in such a big way, isn't it? Because when we're on our own and we're out, I think our level of fear is far greater than when we just have one person with us.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm very fortunate where I live. I live in quite a suburban area, but it's urban. It's a bit weird because one side I've got a huge shopping centre, and on the other side I'm at middle of countryside, literally a road that divides it. So I can really find that balance. I can take Nala out into really quiet spaces, but I've got a housing estate and that safety literally over the road, and some women don't have that. So yeah, and I'd just say as well, if you're able to drive, and I appreciate not everyone's able to, go find them spaces as well. There are spaces out there, and you can, again, I just keep going back to your local authority, challenge what they're doing for you. Ask them what cameras they've got, what lighting they've got, especially with dark nights and the 9 to 5 and everything, and you still want to train your dog. They've got a duty to make sure that you're safe.
There is a balance for us all, isn't there, between being attentive, enjoying the walk.
100%.
And that can be really hard. If you're going out so stressed by the walk itself, your chance of you and your dog coming home friends is probably quite low, because you're really wound. The dog is like, why is she really wound? What's going on? And you're both just going to continuously bounce this negativity off each other. What can we do when we go out to not relax, but to try to enjoy it, and to not be so aware that we are living in this fear phase?
I think having them safety mechanisms like on your phone, so you can get personal alarms, for example. So you might be isolated, but like me, be still within earshot, maybe on farmers' fields with local houses. So I think just having them strategies in place that you can call on, and then you can drop your shoulders and go and enjoy your walks rather than being in a field. So just for example, things like making sure your mobile phone's charged before you go out, because there's nothing worse than being on 3% and on your own. So you're adding to your own anxiety. So make sure you've got a charged phone. Silly things, and these are things we do, I talk about at work, is having your car the right way around, ready to go. So having it not where you've got to do a 3-point or a 53-point turn, for example, if people are blocking you, park your car the right way around. So if you do need to leave, you know that you can just chuck your dogs in car, whatever way, and go. But just them strategies, that connection with your friends through like the Hollyguard app, and parking your car the right way, have a fully charged mobile phone, be visible. So have a light, you're less likely to get unwanted attention if you've got light around you. So that could be a head torch, a torch yourself, personal alarm. Just put them strategies in place and go and enjoy your walk. Just go and enjoy your walk. Don't let the fear of what could be stop you, and because it's no good for your dog.
There's also the fact that on the majority, most of us are wearing whistles, and we see our whistles as a training thing.
Yeah.
It's also a way of getting people's
attention.
So we've pretty much always got some sort of way of alerting others. There's been talk in the group about leads to say aggressive dog. Now, we all know us, the majority of our dogs are not aggressive at all. But things like that, which just might make somebody think twice about approaching it. Even though your poor dog's getting a bad name, bless him, things that if they make you feel safer, you can do.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, you'll know your own area. You'll know your maybe statistics around what's happening in your area, and like local Facebook groups and things like that, if they've seen someone on prowl sort of thing. So yeah, whatever you want to do to take the anxiety away, do it.
And also, the night makes us scared, understandably. Every horror story we've ever watched is set in the dark. But we need to be just as alert in daytime as nighttime, but not over alert in either.
Yeah, exactly. It's things like if you do wearing headphones or earphones, just leave one out. I'm not saying don't listen to your podcast on a walk, by all means, but you're just more aware than if you've got full noise cancelling headphones in, for example. And again, that could be where you're walking. If you're surrounded by houses and things like that, you probably could get away with wearing both your earphones because it's very unlikely. But if you were walking out in middle of nowhere, just pop one out just so that you are more aware. And again, all them strategies will help you to relax.
They'll also help you with your dog training as well, because we tend to do it where, like, if we're scrolling on our phones or we've got headphones in, we are doing something, and whilst we're doing that one thing, the chances are it's taking our mind away from doing the other thing we should be doing, which is checking what our dog is doing.
Yeah, I agree. My training, I'm so much more conscious. If I'm doing a short snap, for example, or video clip, it always seems to go wrong on that video clip because I'm not in the moment with my dogs. I'm thinking about, is this getting me on video or is it, do you know what I mean? So I totally agree with that. Yeah, if it's going to go wrong, it's always going to go wrong when I'm filming myself.
For those who are listening who are in a position where it's not just a general walk fear, but they're in situations where there's consistent behavior from another person towards them, what's the types of things they can do to put them in a safer position?
So I'm a huge advocate for reporting. I know there's a lot of mistrust at the minute regarding what we see in the media and regarding the court system and the way victims are treated, but I see it from a flip side as well. I see it from all the incredible people in the sector that are working extremely hard to keep you safe. Please report it. There are safeguarding things that we can do to put in place if someone is being stalked, such as stalking protection orders. And Paladin is a great organisation that can give you a caseworker to help you navigate that. You're not on your own. Again, reporting into police. There's silent solutions as well. So if you're ever out and you can't phone the police, please Google silent solutions. So it's where you can phone 999. You wait a few seconds till the operator answers, and then if you can't talk, say you are being stalked and you're right, whatever, you can press 55, and that allows the police to check where you are via your mobile. They can get your location and send somebody out to you. Also, look up your local domestic abuse organisations. Use an app called Bright Sky. It looks like a weather app meant to be hidden. You can download that. You can find your local services that are available. If you don't want to report into police, stalking and domestic abuse go hand in hand. So you might not be a domestic abuse victim, or you might be, but please get in touch with them and they'll make sure you're linked in with your local services. But nationally, there's Paladin and there's some really good advice on there. And alternatively, report into your local police force.
To start tracking this amazing podcast app, and I hope it's incredibly helpful, can we just briefly talk? There are things we can do, male or female, to defend ourselves as well, isn't it? Like, we can go to self-defense classes, we can learn things that just empower us a little bit more, even if it just builds our own confidence in the outdoor world.
Yeah, there's loads of things that you can do, and it's all dependent on you and how you want to react to the situation. So there are self-defense classes, there's the apps and things like that. There's checking in with family. Even use your family WhatsApp group if you don't want to feel that you want to do this. It's all dependent on you and how you want to, where you live, what spaces you use, on what sort of lengths you want to go to implement them strategies into your life. And I just reiterate to anyone, it's not our responsibility to keep safe. It's us as a sector placing the responsibility on the people causing harm. And just to reassure anyone listening, we're working incredibly hard in that space. It is noticed. We do recognise that. This gives us our bubble. for example, of them extra strategies we can use while we're out to feel safer.
There's things we can definitely do that we can learn from the outdoor sector as well. So, for example, if my husband is taking a group into the outdoors, they're going caving. They say where they park in, they tell somebody what time they're going in the cave, what time they're coming out the cave, how long a window of tolerance to give them. If they're not out an hour later, for example, there's somebody's to call them. If they haven't heard, what do they to do, the process, the steps, etc. And whilst we are not going caving, we can do the same things as people going into the outdoors. We can say to somebody, I am going this way. I am taking this route. This route normally takes me 20 minutes. If I'm not back in 40 minutes, can you call me and just check I'm okay? Can you check find my iPhone, for example? Where am I on the route I should be on, etc. And whilst, again, we don't want to scare anybody, those things aren't about scaring, they're actually about empowerment, because you know that somebody else is looking out for you.
Totally agree. And it's a mindset as well, I think. I'm quite independent after my experiences, but just in life, I do it for my kids. You know what I mean? If they go out and stuff, I'm like, roughly what time you're going to be back? And it's not there so I can follow and check and whatnot. It's just from a safety angle in this day and age. So yeah, totally agree with what you've just said.
One of the other things that I do when I'm out, if I don't feel safe, I will literally sometimes just phone my husband and talk to him. Like, it's a weird thing to do. And I say to him, Matt, I'm not feeling quite safe right now. I can sometimes do it, even if I'm driving the car and it's dark and I don't feel quite safe. And then you say, cool, let's talk. And then we'll just talk the thing. And you don't have to phone your husband or your partner. Like you said, you could just talk to a friend and say, I'm walking past a load of men with a dog and I don't feel safe. And I'm just talking to a friend. I've even known me to pretend I'm talking to somebody just to feel safer in myself.
Yeah, they're all brilliant strategies. And I think also when it comes to the mobile phone, we're talking in the Gundog world, the dog world, getting your phone out for the spaces we're more than likely to be in. But there are some spaces where that could increase your risk. If you think about theft of things, so if they see you walking around with tech. So yeah, again, it's just bringing it back to the spaces where you are, and using what you've got at your disposal and the levels that you want to go to put any sort of safety in place to relieve that anxiety. But nobody should. We just want to walk our dogs. When we're root of it, we want to go out, enjoy our dogs, and come back with a hopefully huge smile on our face because everything's gone right. And this should be at the back of our mind, not at the front of it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think my daughter bought a bag with her. She got a small Cavapoo, and the lead clips to the bag so that her hands can be free. She probably bought it like we all do because we want to take photos, etc. But it's just like little things. If they're helping you to feel that you are more capable to go into an environment, because the last thing we want is for any ladies, any of our members, anyone listening, to be so scared that they stop going out.
Yeah, and that's what happened to me when I were a victim, and that's why I'm really passionate around. I have to push through them thoughts like many women do, and probably do in this space. And I refuse to let it strip me of my enjoyment of my dogs. So just having I've got some of them strategies in place, like Ollie Guard and things like that with my family, the WhatsApp group, and using the only one earphones if I do want to just go for a short lead walk, for example, rather than a training session. So yeah, just implementing them in, and yeah, don't let it strip your enjoyment away. But there are things that we can do to make sure you enjoy it rather than worrying about
everything happening.
Yeah.
Somebody told me, I think it was a therapist, and again, terrible names, but they said, always run through something in your head. What's the possibility of it happening and what's the probability of it happening? And it was such a big thing for me because I was like, is there a possibility of me being attacked? Yes. What's the probability of it? We're very low, but I'm not suggesting for women we don't be aware, but we don't let these things stop us enjoying ourselves, because the probability of this happening to us is far lower than we may believe, that every single time we leave the door, something negative is going to happen.
And we're flooded as well. We're flooded by stories on social media. We're flooded by stories on the news around people being hurt. And again, that impacts our personal trauma and the experiences we hold in our head and the stories that we can, I don't want to say make up, but envisage that could happen. So yeah, I think for me to navigate that as someone that's experienced that is really drilling down on the spaces that I use, knowing the spaces that I use, knowing the routes in and out of it. For example, less so in the summer months. As you said, there is a difference between light and dark, but them apps, go out, go have fun with your dog, because a lot of it, we have dogs for our mental health, for our self-care and for our hobbies and everything like that. And they're not taking that away from me. They're not taking that away from me. And I thought that yesterday when I was training Nala, and just that we come on with a huge smile on my face. I've had a really tough couple of weeks at work, and that's why I do it. That's why I put all this work in for that smile. So I refuse to let them thoughts, even my experiences, stop me, because I know in the background we're trying to stop it. It's about stopping the people that do it. And I know we're working extremely hard for that. So no, don't let it stop you.
Thank you so much for going through this conversation with us, because it's not an easy conversation to have or to share our own experiences and thoughts around it. For anybody who has been impacted or feels they want more information, please check the show notes and we will put links to all the things that Laura has gone through with us. To finish this up, Laura, how did you become a society member?
Claire. It's really weird because Neo's not far behind Rose in age-wise, and Nala's not far behind Jeannie in age-wise. I think I just seem to follow a trend. When Claire gets a pup, I seem to. And it must have been the algorithm that I didn't follow any. I'd followed, I think this is what really impacted my training, because I followed a lot of trainers that showed the polished article. And I always felt really down in the dumps. My dog's like that. Why can't I get that? And that's why I really connected with Claire. And then obviously she shared the LWDG. And then I joined the community space and I'd followed it. And I was like, this is it. I'm very critical of psychological safe spaces as well as physical safe spaces, because like you said, women can tear other women down as well. We're just as good as it. And I really wanted to sort of find my feet. And it's a really safe space. I feel so, it's one of the safest spaces I'm in for my psychological health, for my mental health, because we can just go in and I know there's going to be no judgy comments. There's going to be full of empowerment and good feedback, even when if it's, I might have gone a bit wonky in my training, it's never judgmental, or it's always given with kindness. And so, yeah, that's how I fell into being a society member. And it's my treat. I work extremely hard, like many people do, public sector worker, mum, single mum, and we don't get many treats, but the society is my treat.
That's made me feel like so amazing, because not I take for granted, because I don't take anything for granted, but we've worked so hard to make the LWDG a safe space. That sometimes I forget how safe it is. We really do have the freedom of speech. We really do have the freedom of no judgment. We can put up any video and it not be abused or opinionated even. People are really lovely. It is easy to forget that we live this little bubble, I'll say it as well now after Gemma's masterclass this month, but we do live in this bubble that we've created of kindness, don't we?
Yeah, and it's just somewhere I can go. When I finish work, for example, and I've heard trauma after trauma myself, and I can come in and I can flick through and I can see loads of women running around fields, enjoying the dogs, asking feeding advice or anything. You don't know what's going to come up. And you know you're not going to be faced with any sort of, God, what's someone going to say to that? Do you know what I mean? It's just all the comments are so positive, so lovely. Everyone just got each other's back. And we can, like I say, I joke about Neo being Asbo Labrador. And I can put that he drags me down the road on my backside if he wants to go after a dog. And not one woman's ever said, that's your fault. Do you know what I mean? I've never felt like, and I can be honest about my dog training. And that's a rarity in this world, to be so vulnerable, to be so honest. And yeah, I love it. I love my cup of tea after my tea and scrolling through the society page.
From what you just said there, again, there are many spaces because the way the world's been set up now with technology, which can be incredibly good or incredibly bad, the space to be vulnerable is limited. And this goes back to what we're talking about in whole. When we are out walking our dogs, we feel vulnerable. When we are online, we feel vulnerable. So having somewhere where it's like having a virtual feed where you can walk around and 100% you are safe, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And that's why it takes me so long to dip into things, because I want to be sure. I'm really, like I say, I'm a trauma-informed practitioner. So psychological safety is just as important to me as physical safety. And I've never, ever once, I'll be coming up to probably a year now as a full society member. I think I've never, ever once, I was really nervous to post at the beginning. And if people look at me post right at the beginning, I was really scared. And now, God, I chuck all sorts on there. I'm really vulnerable myself on there because I want to connect to people that maybe other new members that might feel like that. Go all in, chuck it all at us. We've got your back. We'll have a giggle along the way. And I'm just forever grateful for the experts that give their time up, for yourself, for creating that community, and for all the other women that have been honest before me, because that allowed me to be honest. And it's just like a rolling effect. I love it. I really do enjoy it.
And if we can create that online, if we can find friends in there who will come out with us and walk with our dogs and do stuff with us, we can create that offline for ourselves.
Yeah, and it's using them skills that we can see that kindness and taking it into the real world. Again, I just go back and I am an advocate, so I am a bit of a pain. Make noise on it. Make noise. Go and see your councillors, go see your MPs, go and tell them you want safe spaces in your area because you deserve it. Why should we walk around in fear when together we're louder?
And the bizarre thing of this is, not for this to sound like a huge advert for the LWDG, but the reason it's so safe is because from the very beginning, I would not tolerate nastiness. So if there was anything that could be seen as a popcorn comment or something where people were having a dig, I would come down like a ton of bricks. And I think if we don't tolerate it, then it goes away. And I know we can't be that naive to think that happens in the offline space. But online, if we show that we will not put up with that as a community, and that is a community ethos, a community value, people who don't have those values, they don't stay, they don't even get in there because they don't fit.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And we can, like I said, we can take them boundaries out and use that empowerment we feel from group and hopefully from this conversation to say, no, I'm not having that person shouting at me on field anymore. I'm going to report it, or I'm going to let somebody know. Because can you imagine if a couple of somebody's raised that same person being quite nasty to someone out on a field? We're holding them accountable instead of us walking around in fear thinking, oh, I didn't say out or I'm wasting police time. We're putting the responsibility where it needs to be on the person that's causing harm.
Fabulous. I hope this podcast has been incredibly helpful for people. I know that we've just gone past Halloween and we're just about to go into bonfire night, and both times can be really terrifying because not only are we dealing with people, but we're also dealing with noises, etc. Take on board some of the things that we have said, the amazing information Laura has given us. Please don't stop using the natural world through fear, because the fact is the natural world has got so much to give us for our health and our wellness. Thank you very much, Laura. We massively appreciate you being such a vulnerable and honest society member. If people want to get hold of you, they can find you in the group, yeah?
Yeah, find me in the group, and if anyone's got any questions or anything or wants to discuss anything, I'm here. If anyone wants any further advice, please do shout out to me. It's my way of giving back for what I've got from the group.
Love it. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing podcast episode. Thank you to everybody listening. Please review, please rate us, please subscribe. Please let other people know about us, because if we can help people through this free podcast, we will be incredibly appreciative of that too. We want to help as many men and women as we can with this podcast to feel that they can improve their dog training and that they've got it within themselves to get their dog to where they want to go. We'll speak to you all next week. That's it for today's episode. A massive thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to head over to the LWDG and sign up for our membership. Get access to expert-led training, a wonderfully supportive community, and the resources you need to become a confident and skilled gun dog trainer. Let's take this journey together, because no woman should have to train her gun dog alone. We'll see you all next week.